Here we go. Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I'm your host, Vinay, with my co host, Raj. Raj, we are back from Las Vegas Summer League. Extremely hot. Not that many Laker
Oof.
games while we were out there for that first weekend. Only one game to watch, but a great time regardless. A lot of things have happened in the news since we last, Laker news, since we last potted. Lakers have hired a bunch of coaches. They missed out on a couple of free agents that we would have liked to have inquired about. And
Yeah,
uh, Bronny James is the talk of the town um, because somebody took a camera and filmed Jaylen Brown having a conversation with his girlfriend at the time, which we'll get into because
sure.
I do think that's an interesting thing. But Raj, we are back from Summer League. How are you doing, my friend? How are you feeling? Are you recovered?
It's so funny, Renee, because Vegas, it feels like time moves at a different speed, right? So I got there Thursday night and it became Monday morning very quickly. um and like it's crazy because you come home and it's like, man, things feel so much cheaper here. Like you don't realize how much more expensive everything is in Vegas. But I'm still recovering. I know it's Thursday. I flew home Monday morning. I pretty much slept this whole week. But 105-degree weather will do that to you. Sitting there and watching games. I had to wait an hour and a half to see Jaime Jaquez play. I was sitting outside waiting to get in to see him. But no, Vegas was fun, man. Recovering now, but that was a really fun time. So, how are you? I got to hang out with you and your
Yes.
family and your friends, and met a
Yeah.
cool guy, Hayden, who was sitting
Yes.
next to us as well.
Hayden.
Big
Hayden.
big Blazer fan.
Yeah, Hayden was a big Blazer fan. He was part of my group that did the sports business class, and we have been friends since. Unfortunately, our other buddy Jalen couldn't show up, but we had a really great time in that class, and we've been friends since. About 2 years back is when I did it. But yes, we watched the Lakers game. I think it was we played what Portland, or I forget who we played. But that game was kind of uneventful. Bronny had a rough shooting game that game. I think that was sort of the highlight of or the low light of sort of what that game was. But it was good times, dude. I took my family members. I took my brother with me and two of my buddies, and they've never done the experience. Like we've gone a couple times now in successive years, and the thing I kept trying to tell them is it's very chill, it's very casual. Like the players just walk around and just do random stuff. So I was gonna share like some of the highlights, I guess, of being out there. So like first one was I got there Thursday night, Friday morning. We went to go have breakfast, brunch, whatever. We want to go eat at the Win, and the table that we got sat at, the table directly next to us was had Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl. So I immediately
Yep.
texted my buddy, I think mutual friend, both of ours, Chris Connor. He's one of the New Orleans beat writers. He covers the Pelicans. I was just like, "Yo, your guys are sitting over here," and he's just like, apparently, he was telling me apparently Trey and Herb, they're like they do everything together. Like they travel everywhere together
Hmm.
and everything like that. So I was just like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." So he was right next to us. Bill Duffy, the power agent, super agent, was on the other side of us, eating with his folks or whatever. Um, on Friday night or Saturday, oh no, Saturday night, we were at the Aria and we were playing roulette gambling. So this is moment number two, cool moment number two. And Gabe Vincent shows up to play roulette, and we're just betting random stuff. And my buddy was like trying to be like he was trying to be like all I don't care. Like when I see NBA players, I'll be like, unless it's like somebody like a superstar, I'll be like, yo, what's up? If it was a role player, I just kind of like whatever, it's cool. It's Gabe Vincent or whatever. But my buddy's never done this before,
Hmm.
so it was just like he walks up to him, he just kind of like goes and takes a seat. It's like, are you Gabe Vincent? And Gabe's like, sometimes. That's funny. So we gambled for a few minutes with him, like at the table, and then we were staying at the Cosmo. Joey Buss, I saw Joey Buss playing craps. Not for very long. I think he might have lost really quick at the craps table that was next to us. So, dude, basketball, food, hanging out with friends, seeing random basketball players. Um, it was a very cool time, man. Summer League is amazing. Well, how did your Summer League experience go, dude?
Yeah, no, it was great. And again, I told you this off the pod, but like I wish there was a Laker game Saturday and Sunday. I thought
Yeah.
that was very strange. And then there normally is. They usually have two games, usually a Friday night game and like a Sunday night or a early Sunday game. But it's always fun. I always tell anyone they should go out. I was surprised how packed it still was. Like I always
Mhm.
remember my first summer league experience, like back in 2017, and people would come, like the Lakers would play at 7:30, Vinay, and people would come at like 1 o'clock to get seats for the Laker game.
Yeah.
And they've moved up the VIP. So earlier, like in past years, like the only seats that they would block were like the first two or first three
Yeah.
rows. Then after that was all general, but now they block up to like 6 or 7 rows.
Yeah.
So
That
it kind
bottom
of
bowl.
feels,
Yeah.
yeah, so it feels like anything, right? After a while, it feels more like a commercial event than like this psycho fan world that it used to, but it's still an extremely cool environment. You see agents, mixing with coaches, mixing with players, mixing with everyone who's involved with the league in any way, come down to this place and kind of congregate in this area. So it's a really fun experience, very affordable too. It's like 40-50 bucks to get in. So I tell anyone to go if they can. And yeah, you don't really get to be this close to NBA players unless
Yeah.
pay the high level ticket prices. Vegas
Yeah.
is fun. You don't remember much after day 4, but um, it's a great time and something that's an annual visit, at least for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say the other thing that happened, we went to Fountain Blue, Fontaine Blue, however it's pronounced,
Right, right.
and Bronny was walking around with like he was walking around, and I'll tell you why this is funny, Raj, because Alex Sarr, who's the number 2 pick of the draft, was walking around the Cosmo. It was just him and one other guy, and like literally, I don't think people even knew if who he was, like, and realized that he was the number 2 pick. But when we were at the Fountain Blue, Bronny was walking around and he was like 8 deep. Like he had like a whole like uh,
Entourage.
entourage of friends and stuff like that. And we saw him. We're just like, oh yeah, it's like we do that thing where I just be like, oh that's Bronny James. Oh that's Mike
Right,
Miller. Oh
right.
that's Kyle Korver. That's Onyeka. It's different guys. But I just thought he probably had like the biggest entourage that I saw of like anybody that was out there. So that was kind of funny to see. But
I remember when
okay,
I was sitting with you and and Hayden, and the Laker game just finished,
yeah,
and the following game was Hawks Wizards, which had the battle of the number 1 and number 2
yeah,
picks. And I had to ask you, like, who's Alex Sarr and Ricochet, right?
yeah,
Like, I could not point them out on the basketball floor, so forget off the floor. I'll make a comparison to you, Vinay. I tweeted about this a few times, but I
yeah.
forget the basketball stuff. But like, I don't know if you were there in those summer leagues in 2017 and
No, I wasn't there. I wasn't
2021.
there that far back.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was the Lonzo year, and like the Bronny stuff. Again, not comparing them as players or play style or anything like that. It's just the hype doesn't match their style of play, right? Like they're just
Mm,
not. They're not guys who are gonna have the ball all the time. They're not guys who are really like ISO offensive creators, but the general crowd is there to see them, right? So it's kind of this distance between reality. And so I felt that with Bronny's first game. It's like the kid gets the ball and the crowd is getting amped, like Bronny, do something. And like I think that's how you lead to like the 0 for 8 or whatever he shot at. I
yeah,
don't
yeah, yeah,
remember.
for sure.
And Lonzo, same thing. First game, I remember Lonzo was taking like these step back contested threes, and that's not really his game, right? He plays a beautiful floor game. I think Bronny is in that kind of similar class. I don't think he has the talent of Lonzo, at least yet, hasn't shown that. Doesn't have the pedigree that Lonzo did coming out. But I think it's just interesting watching. Obviously, Bronny has the attention because of his dad is LeBron James. Lonzo had it because his dad is LeVar Ball, so in very different ways. But I just thought
Right,
it was
right.
interesting, kind of the attention they got. And I thought later on, as summer league went on, both of them, Lonzo won the MVP of the summer league that year.
Yeah,
People forget, but Bronny, I think, has looked a lot more comfortable. So, do you see
yeah,
that comparison a little bit, just in terms of the attention and the hype that they've gone?
yeah, yeah. I think Laker fans, like the Laker fans, started filing in. Like I remember we were
Mm,
watching the game before that, so we could get decent seats. And I was telling my buddy was just like, "Oh, it's kind of dead." I was like, "Just wait! Like the Laker fans are going to show up, and then that entire upper level bowl is going to get filled up."
mm.
And it's exactly what happened. I there was that one dude that was sitting behind us that kept saying
Oh
"Go
my
Bronny"
god.
like every 2 seconds. I thought that was really funny. I mean, he was doing it on purpose, like he was trying to be a character when
Oh,
he was
for
doing it.
sure. Few
But I,
alcoholic drinks have
yeah,
entered.
yeah, I think there's a lot of people who, um, they followed Braun his entire career, and they're almost, they feel like they feel invested also in Bronny's success. And Laker fans were invested in Bronny's success because he's wearing a Laker jersey too as well. So I think that's like a real thing. But Raj, we were there last year when Wemby
Hmm.
was there, and you and I watched Wemby's debut
Oof.
game against, and I think he played Scoot. He had a rough
Yep.
start, but obviously that's all water under the bridge. But the bowl wasn't really filled up even the way that it was last year. I would say this year
Oh,
hasn't really compared
nowhere close.
to last
Hmm.
year. So we're probably going to go again next year. I think next year because you're going to get like 3 or 4 guys that are kind of American athletes. Like people are
Hmm.
going to know who Cooper
Cooper
Flag
Flag is.
is. People are going
Hmm.
to know who is it AJ Devance or whatever his name is, like the other guy that's going to Rutgers. There's like 3 or 4 guys that are like legitimately good guys that are going to be in there, and so I feel like it's going to be more busy. I think this year, in general, the crowd
Yeah.
was 2 French guys. Like we haven't watched French guys, so I was like, well,
No.
what am I going to take from this? So, but no, it was good, man. It was a good turnout, and it's good to see. It was good to see our guys in person because you never
Yeah.
really know how good a player is on TV, but when you watch them in person, you get a real good idea of how good they can or can't be when it comes to it. Um,
Uh,
yeah, go ahead.
You know, I was gonna say, yeah, no, it was fun to be out there, and it's funny because you see all the hype on TV, and then you just watch like Bronny's just another player out there, like it's
Yeah,
just. But then you watch on ESPN, it's like the camera's on him for like
yeah,
4 minutes
yeah.
at a time. But then like when you're in person and you see all the teammates, they kind of just treat him as another player. But no, it's fun. I have like a theory, Vinny. I feel like every team should have one player that's too good for summer league on their roster.
Mm,
You know what I mean? And
fair.
I'm honestly not sure. I think Dalton Knecht was probably the closest that we have, but just like I think like a second year player that can kind of come in and he's probably too good to play, but just plays 1 or 2 games. So I think that would have been fun to have for us last year. Obviously, that was Max Christie, and I thought
Yeah.
he really kind of elevated just the enjoyment of the summer league team. Right, when you have one player, then kind of it's like having a star in summer league, quote unquote. Just have a guy that can kind of organize things. Our team felt a little disorganized throughout this whole kind of process. But no, it's fun to watch the young guys. Again, I'd tell people to come out to the G League as well. If you enjoyed this experience, come watch these
Yes.
guys play in that environment as well. But
My
yeah,
my
this was fun.
I'll tell the folks that listen to the pod. My favorite comments to read on Raj's timeline is people telling Raj who is good and who is not good in the G League. And it is the reason why it's so funny to me is because I always tell Raj, I was just like, there's no way these people are either watching the G League games or they're attending. Like you attend games in person, so like your
Oh yeah,
critique is like, hey, this guy's not as good as like I know the stats look good, but I promise you, this guy's not. You know, you got to temper your expectations, or maybe this guy, hey, this guy should start playing a little bit more.
right.
He looks like he has some potential. And it always cracks me up that people on Twitter are like, you don't know what you're talking about, dude. Colin Castleton should be playing right now. And it's like, dude, you guys have to like Colin Castleton's a foul magnet right now. Like he can't like he gets frozen in pick and roll defense and he's committing some awful fouls sometimes. That doesn't mean he can't get better, but like he just does that too much and he's not ready
Yeah,
to go to the parent level where he's gonna get picked on in that coverage. And so like it just always cracks me up that when people say that. And then but yeah, it is. So let's talk about that. I wanted to talk about the Lakers things that have happened, the news, but let's
right.
push that a little bit out and let's just go directly into summer league because since we're on that topic, the Lakers. I think you've described it a few times on Twitter that it's been very disorganized. They've been getting blown out from the jump, very dispirited. I mean, just kind of going through the motions, sort of their summer league. We just won 2 games. You know, we
Hmm.
won today's game and we won the previous game. Also, Bronny had 2 good games in a row. There was some stuff building with him not looking like he was a good player, and
Sure.
that has taken a life of its own. So let's separate that for now. Let's just talk about summer league basketball because we want to talk
Hmm.
about the basketball first, and then we'll talk about the off the court media stuff that's happening with it. What do you
Yeah.
think? What are your takeaways so far from like what we've seen out of summer league, California and Vegas summer league?
Y- Yeah, I thought it was a really disservice, Renee, not to have a point guard or some kind of shot creator on this team. Obviously, Jalen Chivino was out, still rehabbing. He is practicing with the team, but obviously wasn't able to play. And I thought the next guy after that just is not good enough.
Dave East, who I think has really struggled.
I think you mean Sean East. Dave East is a rapper.
Excuse me, Sean East. Yes, I've
Yeah.
seen way too many people call him Dave East, which makes it sound like Dave Free, which just gets stuck in my mind. But yeah, Sean East, I think he's like he's really struggled, at least as a shot creator, and he's kind of in this mold. But I don't blame Sean East. Like he's trying to make a living, and like to do that, he's got to score the basketball. Like I totally understand. It just I think it hasn't looked very organized. The other guy like Kuzi, I thought like Tori Kuzi or whatever was it? Tony Kuzi, I believe is his name.
Tommy
Tommy
Kuzi? Yeah.
Kuzi. I think is it Tommy Kuzi? Yes. I thought he's played well. He's also 25, right? So he should be better in summer league. But again, like his game is kind of more on ball, not really spreading it out. But I think like your goal in summer league is your actual first rounders or your actual draft picks to kind of show at least something and show some comfortability. I thought Dalton's looked as advertised to me, and we can get into him in detail a little later. But I think he's just been like everything I hoped is exactly what I saw. Like it's exactly what you wanted from your first round pick. That's a shooter. All those actions he runs beautifully. I think Bronny's gotten better as the the summer league has gone on. We'll see what he turns into. But yeah, just looking like a lot of disorganized stuff. Blake Hinson has been probably my favorite guy to watch, Vinay, because it's just light is green, like shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
And I would love him to lose like 10 to 15 pounds before the season starts, just so he can kind of run up and down without huffing and puffing after three or four times up the field. But that dude has an absolute slingshot. Very much looks like Buddy Hield to me. Little oversized Buddy Hield. But again, you don't want to take too much from summer league, right? You don't want to like overanalyze and kind of make quick judgments on players. I try to tell people about Maxwell Lewis. I was trying to warn about. Again, I think there's still time for him to get better. It's just I think the clips of him don't match the reality of the full play yet. So hopefully there's some growth for him. Castleton as well. I just don't think this is the environment. Like he needs to. Again, I think he's kind of there offensively, but the defensive stuff is kind of what he needs to work on. And I didn't see much that improved so far with that. But yeah, I think that's the main takeaway. The other guys are obviously just trying to make the team. There's one guy, it's funny, Vinay. There's a guy named, I think I told you this like while we were sitting there, but there's a guy named Valerio Bodon who's on this summer league team.
Yes.
He cannot play for our South Bay team. Like that guy he cannot get minutes on our South Bay team. Again, no disrespect to Valerio Bodon, like all luck to your journey. It's just interesting that this was like the roster spot for him. And honestly, he didn't play very much in summer league either. But I just think that was funny to like watch that guy on this team. But weird concoction of guys. What's your kind of big takeaways from the 5 games, 5 or 6 games so far?
So I mean, I think my focus has been mainly on 3 guys. It's been on Dalton, it's been on Bronny, and it's been on Colin, honestly, because I didn't think Lewis would be a guy who would be adding, like contributing to the rotation. But I just wanted to see, because the Lakers haven't really signed any centers, haven't done anything. So I was just curious to see if Castleton took a leap. And we did the same thing with Max Christie last year, where I remember we watched the Lakers game because it was at the end of the night, and we were able to move down to like basically like 2 rows basically from courtside, and we were able to watch Max up close. You could clearly tell in the summer league that Max had taken some sort of mental IQ leap and his confidence was reflected. So I was watching those 3 guys. Obviously, Dalton and Bronny are brand new to it, so I can't not too much. We're starting our analysis with them from this point onward. So let me just knock Castleton out. I think he can be a really good passer. I think he plays with his head up offensively. He's trying to be a shooter, like he's trying to be involved in the offense to some degree. He wants to be like this elbow hub sort of player, screen elbow hub player. But Raj, his defense is awful. Like his defense is bad. Like he's out of position routinely. It seems like he's a step slow when the ball moves around. Guys could be in the dunker spot, and he's just like unaware that they're in the dunker spot sometimes. So maybe he has a little bit of defensive tunnel vision. So I don't think he's going to be somebody who's going to be able to contribute to the Lakers. So I think for now, if there are Laker fans out there that have this aspiration that that Colin's going to get minutes at that backup 5 or something like that, or they'll play 2 big lineups with him and AD. I don't think he's ready for that just yet. Again, he's still a young guy, so all these guys can improve different environments. What it is, I just think him specifically, we're not going to get that out of him right now.
Do you think that's because it's sad to me because I think his offensive game is there. Like he has a floater game that's very nice. He's a really nice passer, like you spoke about. You talked about the hub. Like I think he's a really good passer. He finds cutters really well. It's just you're right. The defense stuff, the rebounding. I think do you think he has to put on more muscle, or is it still kind of a positioning issue to you? Because I would hope I was expecting him to put on a little bit more muscle. I really couldn't tell throughout this year.
Yeah.
Again, the G League's a strange place for that. And he put up his 18 and 11 in the G League. You know what I mean? So there's no doubt that he can score and he can put up numbers. But yeah, it's that it's the foul stuff, it's the defensive stuff. But do you think a more strength for him? What's his path, I guess, to playing?
Yeah. So I don't think it's physical tools. I think it's sorry. I think it's his ability to read the floor defensively. That's sort of the problem. Now, I'll give you this though. I will say this: Max Lewis and Dalton Knecht playing on the perimeter didn't help his situation.
Sure.
So if he maybe plays with better defensive guys, maybe he's not hedging as hard as he normally would and getting caught out of position, because that was definitely something. that was happening. So I think. I don't know if it's a size thing. I don't think it's he's not strong enough. He's willing to defend. He's willing to crash. He's willing to put his body on guys. It's just he seems a step slow to everything. And so, again, sometimes I don't know if it's a coaching thing or if it's a player just being slow, when it comes to making those sort of reads, and he has to be coached to it. But I think he can be – he also does this thing, Raj, where he loves to bring the ball up the floor. He really wants to – after he gets a rebound, wants to dribble the ball up in transition and then start the offense with a DHO thing. It's kind of interesting because he's the only guy I've seen do that consistently. Almost like he wants to do it. Not I have to do it because I don't have anybody to pass to. So I'm curious to know, you watch him in South Bay, where
that's definitely
is that what he likes to do? Is that how they use him? Is that what
100%? Yeah, he's effectively the point guard for them a lot because JHS missed a lot of time. So he's kind of, and I think they've spoken about this too, how they kind of want him to be the facilitator, right? And again, you look at that starting lineup, there's not a lot of on-ball guards that surround him. So I think it makes sense. And I think that's something they're telling him to do. And look, I think that's well within his wheelhouse. I think he has the handles for it. Again, I think he's a good passer. I think the dribble handoff game is right into what he wants to run offensively. I have no questions about him as an offensive skilled guy. I think he's an NBA offensive big today. Now, how much can you be that while not being able to defend? That's the question for him.
Yeah.
Next season, because again, the numbers were there. Even in Summer League, the numbers were there. Even in G League, the numbers were there. It's all the other kind of timing on the blocks, the drop coverage versus can you switch at all. And it's kind of looking like in Summer League, at least he's not a switchable big. But at least in that drop coverage, can you stay back? Can you take away the lob? And can you change the guard shot? He's kind of slow in that manner. But offensively, he's right there, man. That's why I asked you, you don't think it's a physical thing? Because I've seen him get kind of have trouble with bigger physical bigs, especially in the G League. Dwayne Dedman was a guy that gave him trouble, and
he's lean, but then my concern is that if he gets bulky, does it compromise his mobility or does it compromise his ability to do other stuff? So that's kind of, it's the 80 thing. We said 80 bulk up so you can play the 5, and then his shot just completely disappeared altogether. So we have to figure that out. So let's continue on from Castleton. Let's talk about Dalton Knecht, dude. This dude is not scared to shoot the ball. Will shoot the ball every single time he gets it if he has to. But he is very clearly a guy who needs to do it off the bounce. He needs to catch the ball off of either a set action where he's coming off of a screen or he's running a dive cut or it has to be off of a compromised rotation, meaning Braun drove, kicked it to somebody, that ball gets swung around to Dalton. Now Dalton gets to do what he wants to do. When he's in those situations, that dude is phenomenal. He is reading the floor. You and I have been big proponents of trying to tell the fans that processing the floor, how you read the floor, it's much more detailed than just that phrase, processing. There is a difference between processing a live, with the ball live in your hands, and then there's processing a closeout or a rotation. And the highest IQ players are the ones who can read the rotation, how the ball is going to move and how the defense is going to move, and attack it before those guys can be set. And Dalton does a really, really good job doing that. And I think if they put him in the rotation from the start, that's where he's going to be. Like everybody's like, oh, he can shoot 100%. He can shoot. But don't discount the fact that this guy will attack a closeout if he's not knocking down shots. So if somebody's late on a closeout or too aggressive on a closeout, he's going by them. And I think we saw it today. Like he'll go and try and dunk it on somebody. He's not like the stereotypical white guy, pulls up for the pull-up. He's like, no, I'm going to try and dunk it on you. And he's got the length to do it. He's got, good enough athleticism to do it. I like him a lot. I like everything I've seen out of him. We'll talk about his defense in a second, but I like everything I've seen out of him offensively. Talk to me about his offense.
It's beautiful. And again, he's another guy that I think, to your point, just needs some organization around him, right? Like it reminds me of like he's in a class where he's doing his homework and every other kid's like turning it in late. He's like, yeah, well, mine's on time, but like it really doesn't matter when like the whole class is messing up. But no, he reads screens really well. To your point, like he has a lot of athletic finishes. Athletic like size with shooting is just a combination you don't see like very often, and I think that's why a lot of people were surprised he fell in the draft, and I think he fell because of his age, but a super smart player. Like he's kind of a JJ Redick's dream, I guess. Like if you were to build the type of player that JJ I think would love to coach, is this guy. He's kind of that type of archetype. But it was fun to watch him also in person, just come off picks, come off rub screens, and read screens very well. He does have some handle. I think he had to handle the ball a little too much in summer league. Obviously he had way more creation responsibilities, but I thought he like showed that well. He makes a lot of like shooter reads, Vinay, where like two are on the ball and he knows what pass to do, whether it's a bounce, whether it's over the top. He reads those very well. A lot of coming onto the corners for screens, a lot of high dribble pull-ups, transition threes. And I was just thinking, like, how many times, again, not to dump on this guy because he's now in Milwaukee, but just like Taurean Prince threes that were just open, that like, you just, the energy finds the open man kind of thing, and the ball swings 3 times and it's like, clank off the corner. And this guy is just automatic when he's open. Didn't get a lot of open shots because, again, the amount of creation that was done on this team was not much. A lot of ISO guys trying to score, but when he got his chances off those handoffs, it's been beautiful to watch. But he's able to run because Cole Swider walked. Like we got Cole Swider. He was the first iteration of like our shooting guy. But this guy is the real deal, man. 4-year college player. Absolutely looks seasoned and ready to contribute. He's a guy, like, again, you want to look like, if a guy looks too good for summer league, Dalton was kind of on that line, and I think he's really started to pick up. I think it's back-to-back 20-point games, Vinay, if I have that correctly for him. Didn't play in the last game because of we're already load managing Dalton Knecht in summer league.
I think what it was is I think what they're trying to get some of these guys some minutes. Like you sign certain guys, they're probably just trying to get them some minutes and exposure in summer league. So I'm with you. I think everything that you described is great. I think you get him on the move and you can get good stuff happening. So he might be a guy that, if he's in the rotation, JJ is going to be using him. I think he's going to be in the rotation. I don't think you draft him at his age unless you're planning on bringing him off the bench in some capacity. I think he's got the size, everything. Roger, let's talk about his defense for a second, because there is some issues with his defense and his rebounding specifically. His defense is a little suspect in the sense that he's not good at containment. Surprisingly, he's a good athlete, but he's not good at containment, which is kind of an interesting thing because usually good athletes that are his size, they can at least stay in front of somebody. So he's not good at he takes bad angles, doesn't square up. But then he also does this other thing where he actually turns his body away from collisions. And this was something that was like a very random thing. I was going to mention it when we were sitting during the game. I saw him do it twice where instead of challenging the play, if somebody's driving at him, it's a smaller guard, whatever it was, you typically see guys jump, use verticality, do something to try and do it. He actually turns his body kind of a little bit to prepare for the collision instead of squaring up, right? So what that tells me, like if I was a scout and I was watching it, That doesn't tell me that he's afraid of physicality, but it tells me he doesn't know how to take a charge. Like he hasn't ever taken charges before. So he doesn't know how to just take the charge in the chest, sell it, get the charge call. Instead, what he's doing is he's turning his body and it's resulting in a blocking foul. And then, if he's out of position, the opposing player's going to. So those are like small things I saw. There's a couple times where he just didn't box out his guy. The guy goes by him, grabs an offensive rebound, scores a bucket. Stuff like that will get cleaned up, I would say, like in regular practice. But those are probably those are like kind of the main things that I saw. And then the part about the offense where he was handling the ball too much, he got put in a few too many ISO situations, and he was not good in those. Like he doesn't have a first step, doesn't have like a smooth handle. So he needs to you need to have him do it off of a closeout or off of some action. But what did you see with his defense? What did you see with that on that end?
Yeah. So again, I'm not shooting in bail because I don't think he defended very well. I also think summer league's a tough place to evaluate. To me, that I think summer league's a lot. Like I mentioned to start this pod, I thought we were very disorganized, and that's not on just the offensive end. I include that on the defensive end as well. I thought there was just a lot of mismatch where. Like we had one guy pressuring the ball, but then there was just no one ready to help. So like it was just a layup on one end, right? So the thing that pissed me off, this is just aside from Dalton Knecht, how much of our summer league games were just absolute blowouts, and we were it was just garbage time. So a lot of the stuff was hard to analyze. That's why I didn't post a lot of videos because it's tough to post a video when you're down 25. It's just it doesn't really hit the same in the room. But no, his defense definitely was a struggle, and I think they talked about that when he got drafted as well. A guy that had a lot of high usage in college, and he was. They asked him about maybe hiding him in Tennessee, but no, that's something he's gonna have to work on. I think for a guy like that, again, as a first rounder, you get a guy that comes in with an NBA skill. Like if Dalton was a two-way 17-point a game scorer, Renee, like you're not getting him at the 17th pick, right? It's just like that guy's just not falling to you. So that, like obviously there's gonna be some warts. I agree that's gonna be something he has to get better at. I thought he had some nice clutch rebounds tonight, at least to close the game. He had a really nice contested board, and that the athleticism is there, right? All those tools are there. I think the knowledge can kind of be put in. It seems like a worker. And these are just generalities that I don't know the guy, but like at least the conversation that has been around him, guy that works very hard, is in the gym shooting a ton. So hopefully that's stuff that translates. But no, he's gonna have to be solid defensively, at least in a point. That is something that like Anthony Davis gives you. Like that's a luxury that he's like kind of hands you, is he can kind of play with lesser defensive guys. But that's something he has to work on. I also didn't like that. I thought he was guarding a lot of smaller players in summer league. At least that's what it felt like to me. Guarding a lot of guards. I think he's more of a 2. And I'd like to see him kind of guard those type of guys. But that's interesting. I'll look at that. I didn't really see the collision stuff. At the rim with him. That's something I'll go back and watch and look for. But he definitely wasn't good on the defensive end. There was a lot of and ones on him as well. I forgot who it was that was kind of going at him directly. I forgot in one of our games. It was a player that was kind of going at him. It was a second year guy.
We watched Houston. We watched the Houston game, and I know Reed was torching him too.
Reed Shepard. Yes.
So that was
freaking incredible when we watched him. But
Reed should not be playing summer league.
I think it was Cam who was like going through him physically.
Whitmore. Yeah. Cam Whitmore.
I think Whitmore was a just bulldozer in a in a place where cars were sitting and waiting. But I thought like he kind of went through Knecht in a way that I think will kind of portray into his like physicality on the next level. But I'm with you. His defense wasn't good. And again, I think at the 17th pick, you're just looking for NBA skills. And if you get a guy that can contribute offensively right away, I just don't think the two-way stuff will be there right now. And he would not be there at 17. If he was.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how they fit him in. I think you add him to a rotation, you definitely do. Like you can't rely on him right now, at least as a like, okay, he can play both ways and defend the guy that's at his position. Like teams will try and probably pick on him, and he might just struggle a little bit with it. But I think overall, we both like him as a prospect. Can definitely see how he can fit into the Lakers rotation. He hit a bunch of threes to start the game today. I thought he looked really good in that regards. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets moved in. He's got good size on him too. Like the size isn't fake. If you go see him in person, you'll see like
big guy.
He's a big dude. He's not a small dude. So that's always good to see. Yeah. So let's get to the main guy, the main event, the reason everybody was showing up to Lakers summer league games. Bronny James has had a rough couple games to start, summer league with the California Classic and whatnot. Missed a game to himself over, I think, his knee fatigue or something like that. But has had two nice games recently, today and the previous game. Seems to be figuring out the pace and the physicality of the games. We watched him against Houston, and he shot a lot of threes, didn't shoot well. Twitter did what it does and posted his low lights and all that sort of stuff and his shooting splits or whatever. And I think, if you just watched it on TV, or if you didn't even watch it on TV, which is a lot of people don't even watch it, they just wait for Twitter to tell them how they should form their opinion on things. You could tell in the building that he was just hesitant. Like, he's trying to play within the flow of the game, but at the same time, he's like, some of the threes that he takes, you can tell he doesn't want to shoot those threes. You can tell that he's very hesitant about it. Either it's because he might not trust himself. Maybe he thinks there's a better option available when he does it. But you could just tell that there's a mental part of it for him, for sure. So on the offensive end, and then we'll get to his defensive end. On the offensive end, I think that his confidence is a big, 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 big part of everything. And I think when his confidence grows, he'll get better. And the comparisons to him being sort of like an Alex Caruso type player, I think is very accurate. He cuts in open space. He doesn't stand around. He's constantly moving. He doesn't screen and stuff the way Caruso used to, or like do like some of that blue collar stuff, but he gets his hands on passes. He'll crash the glass from the perimeter. He does a lot of connector stuff that Caruso used to do. So I think if you look at him in that regards, and you think about his development as a kid growing into what Caruso eventually became, which was an all defensive player caliber player, I think there's a path for him that's very visible and easy to see. I would argue he's probably more talented than Caruso probably was at scoring the basketball. So that, like, he's got a floater and all that. Caruso didn't really have a consistent floater. So it's like he's got a few things that'll probably work out in his favor. I don't know if he contributes right away. I don't think he's going to contribute right away. But I liked what I saw out of him defensively and the intangible stuff. But before we get into defensive stuff, talk to me about what you saw from him offensively.
Yeah, the tough part about the Caruso comps is, like, again, I've said this to people around, like, I wish Bronny was 6'6", like it would change so much on the, I think, progression of his game. Because again, I agree with you, all that stuff. I think he has the feel. I think the instincts are all there. He has really nice hands. But at 6'2", like, it's very tough to be it's basically like the Patrick Beverley, right, type of mold, where you have to be so much of just this defensive pest. And even Beverly had to be a knockdown 3-point shooter, 40% 3-point shooter kind of stick in the league. And I think Bronny's gonna have to do that. But his jumper, Vinay, looks fine. Like, the form looks good. Like, even off the bounce, I feel like his footwork is nice. He's obviously very comfortable on the mid-range pull-up. I feel like that's kind of his go-to shot right now, curling off and pulling up in the mid-range as like a big, drops back or stuff like that. He had a nice little pump fake pull-up. Like, that all looked fine. I thought his jumper was just off. And again, it looked a lot like he was trying to – people have never been to the summer league. Like, the crowd is kind of on top of you in a way that's different than a lot of arenas. So it felt like he was trying to appease the crowd that was there with a lot of the shots he was taking.
I mean, there's people that literally yelling, shoot it. Like, he's like 0 for 6. And they're like, shoot the ball. And it's just like,
right. He's like, all right, let me and like, he's 19, man. You know what I mean?
Kid,
so obviously all those comments probably hit a little different for him. Even with the fishbowl that he's, grown up in, it's different when, like, you're the fish. Right, like, he's lived in the fishbowl, but, like, it's always looking at his dad, and now it's like, hey, I'm actually the fish that they're looking at. And so he's trying to, appease them, but he looked a lot more comfortable. You can see the joy, I guess, come back a little bit. He was smiling a lot these last few games, having a lot more fun out there. I hope Vinay, they don't believe the G League is beneath him. Like, I really hope that's something that, that's a route that they take, because I think that's a good place for him to kind of hone a lot of the ball handling stuff, a lot of the shooting stuff, get a lot of spot up jump shots off, and I think that's a good place for that. But he looks fine. Like, he's on a 4-year deal. Like, this isn't someone that, like, if he has to contribute right away, something went wrong this year.
Yeah,
Like,
like
he's
a lot of
not.
people got hurt, or
A lot of people got hurt. A lot of people weren't good, right? Like, there's
Yeah.
something that went really wrong. Or Bronny was amazing. Like, either one of the two, but I'd probably lead the former there. Yeah. So I wouldn't expect him to contribute right away, but I think his offense looked, like, other than the shooting just not going in for the first 2 games, like, he played within himself, and I think he's a guy that's a very much team type of guy. It's just, again, at that size, it's tough to not have an offensive, like, game that matches. But offense was fine. Let's get into his defense. So what do you think about his defense?
Yeah. So his defense is his defensive technical skill, technical ability, moving his feet, widening his stance, staying flat, staying like perpendicular to the ball is really good. Like, he's exceptionally good at that. He is very good at reading the direction that the offensive player wants to go in. He's very good at absorbing contact on the initial bumps without giving up too much ground. He doesn't lose ground when guys are trying to bully him. I think his defensive technical skill is really, really good. I think his IQ is also really, really good. He has nice anticipation. He has, because he's good athletically, he's able to cut off some angles that guys like. It's one of those things where it's just like, if a guy thought that he could take me one-on-one and then he faces Bronny, you're calling for a screen. Like, I think that's how good of a defender he is. And usually, if you're forcing the other guy to have to call for screens, you're doing a really good job defensively. Navigating screens and stuff like that, still, he's going to learn to get better at that, because his NBA level screening, there's a lot of illegal screening that goes on in the NBA. So I think he'll be okay in regards to that. I just want to also say this. The reason why I'm using the phrase defensive technical skill is because I think a lot of people have been saying that Bronny's a very elite athlete. And I think people should maybe pump the brakes a little bit on saying that he's an elite athlete, because he can get beat by faster guys. He can get overwhelmed by bigger, stronger guys. And I think when you say that a second round pick is an elite NBA athlete, you're thinking of guys that are like pure clamps. Like, I'm like you like the Lou Dort type guys. Like, you're putting him on Luka Doncic, or you're putting him on whatever the star player is on the other team, right? Lou Dort's just a name I threw out there. I don't think Bronny's there yet. I think he still has to grow into his body and stuff like that. And he may certainly, like I said, the Caruso comp, he grows it. He won't be as tall as him, but if he grows into being a physical guy like Pat Beverly was, and Caruso is, I think he could certainly be that way. I think people should be a little careful with the elite athleticism stuff, because he's going to get, like, somebody's going to test him. Like, the polished NBA players are certainly going to try and test him. So this is not like a knock on him. This is just like if you're a Laker fan and you take anything I say analysis wise with any grain of salt, just like, he's a great athlete. I wouldn't say he's an elite athlete. And also, I think you pointed out astutely, when you're 6'2", you have a lot to overcome, no matter what your athleticism is. And that's not to say he can't do it, but his baseline, like his foundational skills defensively, are fantastic, dude. Like, I love everything that I see out of him. Funny thing is, they do that thing already in Summer League where they don't give his guy the ball because they want to go in a different direction, because they don't want him to junk it up. That's already good stuff. I love seeing stuff like that.
Yeah. The comp for me for him is GP2, right? Like, GP2 is also 6'2", also defensive minded, also son of an NBA star. Wasn't as good, but also a son of an NBA star, right? Grew up in that kind of environment. And GP2, another guy, people don't remember this, but I was watching GP2 playing Lakers South.
Yeah.
I think it was called the Defenders at the time. But they're our G League team as well, and kind of had to bounce around. And I don't think Bronny will go through that, because Rich Paul is a much better agent. But I don't think Bronny will have to go through that. But I think that's a good kind of route for where, I think Bronny can turn into, where GP2 is a special defensive guy, right? Special instincts, turning himself into a guy who really never found a jump shot, right? But still very effective. And again, he played with the best shooter ever, which kind of helps in that. But I think that's where Bronny can really contribute. But yeah, defensive, I think he's been really good. I think when they say elite athlete, Vinay, what they mean is like really elite size at 19, right? He's 210 pounds at at that age. Like he has a strength that like a lot of people at that age really don't. I think that's kind of where his advantage is. Like I don't see a speed advantage yet, at least for him. The athletic, I think he's a good athlete, but to your point, I don't think he's an elite athlete. He's not in like the 1% of athletes in the league. And again, at 6'2", like I think he makes up for that with the instincts and all that stuff he has. But the offensive game, yeah.
Shell has a question. Do you think he's since you made that, you thought about it,
yeah,
is he as athletic as GP2?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would have to look up like GP2's wingspan. It feels like GP2 is more of like a better, 2-foot jumper, like off of no run, right? Just a straight line jumper. But I think he's in that close in that class. GP2 has caught a lot more lobs and stuff like that. But I think Bronny can kind of be right in that mold. But the offense has to get to a point where it's respectable, like he at least at some point. But I think he's been fine. Again, like the 55th pick stuff is tough to navigate really for me in terms of the analysis of him, because again, like he has a guaranteed deal, so he is on the Lakers. He's not on a two-way or nothing like that. He's guaranteed a roster spot for the next 4 years. So he's a guy that the Lakers are going to have to invest in and develop. But the defense stuff is there. It's fun. It's nice. You could tell he kind of, gets a spark from that. I think he has a nice hands. He's got a bunch of steals in summer league as well. So, yeah, we'll see. But the defense has been good. It's way ahead of his offense, for sure.
Yeah. I think just the effort and the IQ can take him a long way on the defensive end. I'm with you. If he's in the rotation, I would hope something bad didn't happen, because we do have a lot of other guards that can play in front of him. But I can see how they might think that there's some value in him, in developing him and whatnot. And we certainly hope that he ends up being successful in that Laker jersey.
Yeah, but I don't know. Did you have anything else on Bronny that you wanted to get to?
No, nothing basketball related. I did want to talk about the media stuff, but go for it. Did you have
let's do like 4 minutes on Maxwell Lewis, because I think it's important, not just because like he's on the team, he's also like rostered. He's not on a two-way. He's also on a 4-year deal, which looked like a steal when he got drafted. But as a guy who's watched him throughout the G League and now watching him now, I want to ask you this because you watched him up close now for a good amount.
Yeah.
I think there's a messaging that's off on him in terms of like the role that he thinks he needs to be versus what probably gets him to stick in the league. Like he took a transition 3 today that like clanked off, right? And he takes a lot of contested drives and floaters. And I'd love for him to like get the Bronny like mindset of like, I need to just guard, I need to defend. And you actually pointed out earlier, you said Colin Castleton playing with Maxwell Lewis isn't great. Maxwell Lewis is supposed to be this like long rangy defensive guy, but he just hasn't shown that. So like for you, what's his, I guess, path? Because I see a player that has a lot of skill, has a great handle, has a jump shot supposedly, that he was able to hit at Pepperdine. It's a player that to me, he looks the same as he did a year ago, which disappoints me. But where are you at with him?
Yeah, the stuff that looked good with him his rookie year is the same stuff that looked good this time. Like he attacks closeouts really well, has his live ball handling is really good. He can attack the rim. He has a great first step. Like he seems like he just wants to be a scorer. Like he wants to be Emmanuel quickly, or he wants to be Norm Powell, like a guy who you put me on the floor. My job is when I get the ball, I got to go score buckets, there's nothing wrong with that. But that's like that means like your ceiling is like a sixth man ceiling. Like you'd never be a true starter because you don't defend well enough in that position. I will say this. He has the length to be a good defender. He doesn't have the strength to be a good defender. He's really rangy, really skinny. Those guys typically don't end up being like really, really good defenders. Like you think of guys that are like who are skinny. You're thinking of a guy like Tabo Cephalosha or something like that, like a guy who's really skinny and rangy, like Matisse Thybulle. But even those guys are are bigger than Maxwell Lewis. So I don't know. I don't know if they're telling him that he has to go and score every single time. Like that his job is just to score as much as he can, because it doesn't know. It looks like he's invested on the other side of the basketball sometimes.
Yeah,
Is that fair way of saying that?
That's fair. So like when you say rangy, I think of like Derrick Jones Jr., right? That's the kind of like
Yeah,
comp
fair,
I guess
yeah.
I look for him. So the point that you just made about he wants to like score, it's crazy because that's such an opposite of how he started playing in the G League. Like he was a guy that could not get shots up. Like he would literally not shoot the basketball. And he would always like he'd like overpass, right? So like even when he's wide open, he would try to again find it. And I think he needs to shoot open threes, right? Like I think there's way too much. Like he'll catch the ball, he'll jab step on a guy who's not closing out, right? And that's the type of stuff to me where like I think the messaging is, oh, like you got these long arms, just drive to the rim, drive to the rim, drive to the rim. And he's like driving, and it's like 3 people at the basket. You see a lot of contested layups that miss or go off, or his shot gets blocked way too often for a guy with his length. He should not be getting his shot blocked that much, but he has a really low release on the jump shot, which I think has a impact on how many times he shoots when he's open. But again, I would like him to be more of this like off ball kind of worker, and this is kind of one of the issues with the G League as well. It kind of promotes high level scoring, right? It promotes high volume shooting, and I feel like that's kind of where he's at. And JJ Redick, I think we just hired. We'll get into this, I'm sure, but we just hired a player developmental, or we're gonna hire like a player developmental guy. BU, I believe his name.
Some guy from the Clippers, Bo something.
Yeah, I think it's Boyu or BU. I forgot his exact name.
Yeah,
But
I think it's pronounced Bo.
Bo.
But yeah, Bo.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful like maybe we can get a little bit more messaging on Maxwell Lewis, because I do think there's a talent there, Vinay. I just don't think it's been sculpted correctly. Like the clay has not been put in the correct position. But just want to get a few minutes on him because I think it's important that he's a actual guy on the roster. It's not just a two-way guy. You can't just cut him or something like that. He's a legit part of this team, along with the other 2 that we spoke about.
Yeah, so the Lakers or Dan Wojcicki reported today, I would say, or yesterday. He reported that the Lakers are they're finalizing their staff. They're hiring a Clippers development coordinator, Bo Levis. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm just gonna say his name. His first name is Bo. Regarded for his on-court work with players and his organization. And then the other guy, Bob Byer, was another person that recently got added. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm curious to see. The messaging since the presser has been about development, develop Austin, develop Rui, which is kind of weird because they're like 25 and 26. It's like then you drafted Dalton. Like these guys are kind of who they are. They're not really going to change that much of who they are. But anyways, like it's been a lot about development, and that's been strange to see, strange to hear. But we'll save that for. I've got a rant about that, but we'll talk about that some other day. We'll stick to summer league, but yeah, I'm curious. Like Max Lewis, I'm curious to see if they give him some more direction and get him to give him some more structure as to what they want to get him to be more successful. So Roger, let's talk about that summer league basketball. Those are the guys. Now there's always it's Lakers, so the media is always going to be a topic of conversation that we have here. If you guys have followed Lakers detailed to any degree, Raj is very good with the media, and I have many gripes with the media. Nobody specific, but just in general, the sphere of Lakers media. And this is not a Lakers media thing. This is a national media thing. There's been this conversation going on about Bronny James and his performance and his stats and the expectations that he has and blah, blah, blah. And so like, and it's just been so much nonsense. And I remember you and I talked about the Caitlin Clark thing, where people were kind of just using Caitlin Clark to have arguments. Like so at some point, it wasn't even about Caitlin Clark anymore. It was more about like, you guys just want to argue about this stuff, and you're just using her name as like the lightning rod that gets everybody to the water cooler. Like Caitlin Clark is the water cooler that everybody comes to. Now, Bronny has now become this thing for the media where people are trying to discuss like the validness of rating him based on who his dad is versus where he got picked versus, why are we taking it easy on him? We don't take it easy on other second round picks. Why did he get this contract? So I wanted to touch on that a little bit and clear up a few things that have been. I've seen it being shared on Lakers Twitter. I don't know if it's in good faith or not, but we should just. I just want to clear things up. First and foremost, Bronny ending up on the Lakers, the way he ended up on the Lakers. The story about Rich Paul telling people if Bob Myers is to believe. I tweeted something and I deleted it because the Bron fans saw it and they tried to turn it into Bronny slander, which it wasn't. It was Rich Paul slander, but it's okay. That happens all the time. Like players,
Sure.
it happens all the time. So that's nothing new. It just cracked me up that Rich Paul spent 2 months trying to tell people, no, we just want him to go to the best place you want to go. You want him to go to the Lakers. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I wanted him. You and I both said, please get Bronny, 55th pick, take him. There's a lot of upside with him.
No problem.
And we have no issues with that. The other thing that's also been happening, which I think people have been a little unfair about, is this guaranteed contract thing. That he shouldn't have gotten a guaranteed contract. Fans need to understand that Bronny has nothing to do with that. That is a negotiation between Rob Pelinka and Rich Paul. So if you're going to be mad at anybody as to whether he deserves a guaranteed contract or not, or you're upset that Bronny James got a guaranteed contract, you need to go talk to the Lakers front office because that doesn't have anything to do with Bronny. He's just there to play basketball. And you can't get mad at Rich Paul because he's doing the best that he can. He wants to do the best that he can for his client. So, like, this is one of those things where I wanted to say this because people are directing their anger at Bronny. And that's, like, no player is going to not sign a fully guaranteed contract. They're going to sign that. If you're upset at it, you need to go talk to Rob Pelinka and whoever else made that negotiation. So it's just like that sort of thing is... I just want to address that because that's been really annoying to watch, and it's normal to get guaranteed contracts, and that's a decision based on the front office. Where are you at with like these two, or not the drafting thing because that's been a while now, but this whole guaranteed contract thing, and you can take it into the expectations that people have for him too as well.
For sure. Just really quickly on the drafting thing, I think my only issue, Vinay, was the messaging. Like, I'm totally fine if you wanted him to come to the Lakers, but don't sell me, a bridge and then, there's not one that exists. So,
we've been saying for 2 months, we're like, the Lakers are going to draft Bronny at the 55 pick if he's available.
For sure.
And, like he wants him there.
And that's fine. It's just like, don't tell me you just want him to be like any other draft pick and he only works out for 2 teams. Like, and that's fine. Like if that's how it went out. And none of this is on Bronny. The guaranteed deal stuff, I think, Vinay, that's more an issue with the amount of guaranteed guys we have that probably aren't playing next year, right? And I think that's more the issue. You have Bronny, you have Maxwell Lewis, you now have Cam Reddish is also there, right? My guy Jalen Hood-Schifino also has a guaranteed deal that's 4 years or whatever it is. Like it starts piling up. I'm at 4 roster spots already of guys who probably won't be contributing next year. Christian Wood obviously is on a max deal, but on a guaranteed deal now, that minimum deal. Obviously a guy that can contribute. Gabe Vincent, another guy, right, that we will see what he's like. It's just, I think these are adding up. So, fans look at it as, we'll talk about this. I don't know if today's pod will have time, but like Gary Trent Jr. just signed for the minimum, right, with Milwaukee, and we didn't have a roster spot. And it's just a factual statement that Bronny James Jr. takes up a roster spot. And that's not Bronny's fault. And I think most people, I don't know how many are directing it at him, but I think this is also a Rob Pelinka free agency started 3 weeks ago. Trades were allowed weeks ago. And like the only thing we've done literally factually is draft Dalton Knecht and draft Bronny James. That's literally, and give Blake Hinson a 2-way. That's the only thing that we've done in the last few weeks. So I think it's more directed at him and all that. But everything else I think has just been a lot of noise. And I feel like, Vinay, I don't know if you agree with this, it feels like the novelty of Bronny is kind of wearing off a little bit. Like I could tell the novelty of it is just not hitting the same. And I think part of it is because Bronny hasn't been, like Alex Sarr, right, had absolutely 2 disastrous games. Really, I think he's 1 for 21 in his last 2 games. Like if Bronny was 1 for 21 in his last 2 games, this story would be hitting just absolute meteor.
It'd be viral. Maybe low lights would be.
Exactly. But because he had like 2 solid games, it's kind of just been like, oh, Bronny played 2 nice games, and the next game is Reed Shepherd versus whoever they're playing. Like it's just they've moved on very quickly. Plus the Team USA is going on and all that. But I think it'll pick up again as the season starts. But that's where I'm at with it. Like, do I wish, like, in a perfect world, don't hate me, everyone here. But like, would I wish Bronny was on a 2-way? I think like players who aren't actually contributing to your team, you'd rather them be on spots that aren't taking up actual roster spots, right? The league is tough. It's very competitive. Excuse me, all the margins matter, in the NBA, especially with the new CBA and the amount of spots you give to players that you don't expect to contribute, the less chance you have of being good. I think so.
I agree.
But again, this all makes sense. All the 4-year deal I think was fine. It's just when you compound it, Vinay, with how many players we already have that are projects / don't expect to contribute, you're in a tough spot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think it's fair. Like, you can't have a third of your roster being guys that can't contribute. So it's just like, if it's Jalen, Bronny, Cam, Wood, I would imagine they think can contribute. But who's the other? Jackson, maybe Jackson.
Yeah,
it's one
Jackson
of
Hayes.
Jackson or Wood probably going to. Then you're at about 4 players now where the issue. So I understand. I think the logic of why did we give him a guaranteed contract, even if it wasn't him specifically, if it was any rookie, to give him a guaranteed contract when you need it, when the roster spot for a more impactful player would be available. I understand that the annoyedness that you feel when it comes to that. But I think you also said it nicely. Like, that's not a Bronny thing. That's a Rob Pelinka thing. Like, you knew that you were going to sign him if you knew that Rich Paul was only going to take a guaranteed contract from him, that he had to be on the parent team. He wasn't taking 2-way. You knew this stuff in advance, but you didn't do anything prior to it to accommodate for it. And I'll tell you what, like, I'm with you in the same sense that I've reached a point. So I was at a point where I was just like, and I think I tweeted out that, like, okay, now Bron has signed. You know what salaries are on the roster. There's no confusion. There's no, hey, we got to make sure that we sign LeBron. That's our most important priority. That sort of thing. Now you can move forward. And I think I'm at a point now, at least with this whole situation, that I'm getting annoyed that we're going to miss out on veteran minimum players who can be impactful in our current rotation. And I think GTJ is an example of a guy that could have helped us in some capacity, even if we just had the roster spot for him. And that's what's bothering me. Like, I'm at that point now with this, and we could probably cover it. You can give your thoughts. We'll cover it in a different pod.
Sure.
But that's where I'm at with it now. It's like, okay, like Precious Achua is there. There's a few guys that can help us in things that we need help with. And I really, really hope we don't keep doing this. But give me your thoughts.
Yeah, just really quickly. Like, again, like, you can look at it the other way too, right, Vinay? If Bronny hits, is an incredible contract, and I think that's the same way you thought. That's the same way you thought about Maxwell Lewis, right? When they gave him that deal, it's like the CBA is getting a lot more stringent. It's a lot tougher to find value deals, right? Guys are going for probably way more than they, not say they should or they deserve, but in terms of what the market would dictate for what it would cost. So if, like, for say Maxwell Lewis, I think Vinay is on a 4-year $8 million or some 4-year $7 or something like that deal, I believe. Which I think was the most that, like, a second round pick or something got for a guaranteed deal. If that hit and you have Maxwell Lewis as an actual contributor at that price, it just really, like, destroys your, your margin for error. Same with Bronny, right? Bronny's on whatever 4 or 8 or whatever the deal is. If he's able to contribute, that just you really hit something. So I think that's kind of also the thinking, that's kind of looking at it glass half full as well. It's just, again, it's just the outcome, and I think it's the Lakers signed a bunch of minimum guys last year who gave them player options, and then they all opted in, which, again, just really destroys your flexibility. So if just a few of those guys maybe played well enough to opt out, you're not in this situation. Like a Bronny getting a 4-year deal doesn't matter if, like, Cam Reddish isn't on the team, or
right.
whoever, or one of Jackson Hayes would opt out. But since they all opted in, now everyone's like, well, now you have no flexibility. Now you need to make trades, and you look like you're desperate in the move. So again, that's kind of where it is. But yeah, Bronny 4-year deal. I think the novelty is going to wear off by November, December. Well, he'll just be another player, and hopefully Vinay, he's in my wheelhouse. He's in this El Segundo practice facility next to me. And that's
I'm sure the games will be packed out if Bronny's playing, if he's playing G League games with you guys.
I think they'll be packed out for a little bit, and then after that, people will kind of
fade off.
Fade off.
So there's this thing that's going on right now, Raj, where people are nitpicking at his stats. And I don't want to talk about the actual basketball performance part of it, because he's a second round. He's like basically an undrafted player, so I don't really care about that. But there's this thing that's happening. I want to talk about a macro level, like philosophically, what I think is happening. So Ron's been in the league for like 20 years, won a lot, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff, and every player who's played for a long time that's ever had any level of success, KD, Harden, Russ, Steph, Bron, Giannis, whoever you can think of, Jokic, they all have stands. And I think stands, a lot of people develop hatred for players because of the stands more than they do because of the player itself, right? Like some people just genuinely don't like the player. There are people who genuinely don't like LeBron. But I think what Bronny is going through right now with the media attention, the negative media attention he's getting, is people who don't like his dad. And this is not like it's not grounded in anything. It's just grounded in feelings. And because his son is kind of, an innocent civilian in this path because of his last name, I think, and because there's like real SEO value, or there's like real marketing engagement value by using his name, I think people go after him. And I think there's just too much warring now that's happening with him. I'm glad that he hasn't let it bother him, and I hope he doesn't let it bother him. But like, it's very clear that Bronny is now being used as like your kid sucks, and that's how I'm going to get back at LeBron. But see, it's not. I don't even know if it's a LeBron thing, or versus if it's a LeBron fans thing. Like, I don't like LeBron fans, so I'm going to make fun of his kid as a way of getting back at his fans. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think it's happening a little bit within our fan base too. It's definitely happening with people outside of the fan base too as well. And the reason why I think it's important to scale back on a macro level, you and I have both said that JJ Redick is a fantastic media person. Like, he knows how to handle media and handle all that sort of stuff. Like, when we think about some of the moves that have been a little bit connected, I think JJ's ability to discuss those sort of topics, because those topics will come up. Like, somebody is going to ask about whether Bronny, JJ thinks Bronny can contribute right now, or when we have a game where we're not doing well defensively, like, oh, what do you think about maybe Bronny? Like inserting him into the rotation. Something's going to come up at some point, and he's going to get asked that. And I think the way he handles that will be really good, and it'll be really important for the Lakers as a team and the Lakers fan base. So I can see it coming, Raj. Like, we can practically predict these things. I know it's coming, and I'm hoping that Bronny doesn't allow it to bother him, because he definitely has tools to be a great NBA player. As long as he keeps that. And his dad's been in it, so I'm sure he'll coach him up too as well. So,
yeah, for sure. It's funny you're talking about the media attention. Renee, this summer, like, the NBA put Bronny on the face of
he's on the poster
cover.
Yeah.
Which, again, it's just unheard of for a second round pick, for a 55th overall pick. But again, the NBA is very smart, and they understand what sells, and they know that no one has any idea who these other players are, but they absolutely know who Bronny is. So we're gonna put him on the ticket. It's gonna sell more tickets. And it's a smart move from them, smart from the marketing team. It just kind of shows you what that is. Look, I think Bronny has lived, again, I said this before, in the fishbowl long enough. He knows how this works. He has someone who's lived in it. Like, there's no one ever, Vinay, who's been as famous as LeBron and as on top of his art for as long as LeBron has.
Absolutely.
Like that, LeBron, like there's just no one that exists in life that has done that, other than maybe some performers or other sport guys that I can't think of. But it feels like LeBron's done it longer than anyone, so there's no one else to like learn that from. And I think Bronny will be fine in that respect. Like, and what's good for him is, like, Bronny doesn't have to play, and I'm not like going at this, but like, doesn't have to play, doesn't have to worry about the money, right? Doesn't have to like, that's all taken care of. There's no like pressure for him to be internal pressure or whatever pressure there is on him or and stuff like that. So like he can go out and play, and all it is their patience on his team, and that's why I think again the G League is just a great place for him and a place for him to grow and kind of be out of the spotlight while he makes his errors, like be able to like make the turnovers without TNT, and because every Laker game's on national TV at some point, and just every turnover is on ESPN or on TNT, and there are people who will pick out the G League stuff, but it's very like I highly doubt ESPN's gonna go and do that, go pick out G League lowlights and post them. So I think that's a good place for him to grow. But the media stuff is interesting, and I don't think it's gonna stop. LeBron and Bronny, I think, are gonna get their first game out of the way very quickly, and just get that father son duo. Interesting thing to me, Vinay, is like I doubt LeBron and Rich Paul got Bronny to LeBron's team to not play with him. So like I'm interested.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Yeah,
I think that's an interesting way to look at it as well. But again, I hope that's a kind of more side goal than an actual just thing that they have to fulfill this season. But I think Bronny's handled it fine.
So I was gonna save it for the other part, but it's a very simple question I'll ask you right now. And you can go deep on it if you want, or you can just give me whatever the top level thing is, and we can save it for later. But there was one thing that kind of concerned me when we did the intro presser, and it's just been the general messaging that we've gotten out of the front office, and that is that the focus for the Lakers has been on development, player development, which is, for me, the reason why it's a little bit of a red flag, not red flag, but like a little bit of a pause. I get a pause from it, is because we shouldn't be in development mode right now. You get the last 2 years of Bron. I'm not saying you got to trade all the picks and go all in. That's our chasing superstar. I'm not saying that. But it's a little strange that the messaging coming out has been that, because that, and actually what's even more strange is that the fans, Laker fans and Bron fans included, have just been okay with it. Because to me, if I was wanting to compete, my thought process would be, hey, you have to improve on the margins. That's not going to come from developing 2 rookies and the second-year player in Max, even though you and I are both very high on him making an impact in the rotation. And it's been a little strange to watch how like confidently they're like, yeah, the development, we'll focus on development, we'll get better. And that's why we brought JJ out. We're going to hire a director of development. So my question to you was, does that sound strange? Am I thinking about it? Am I being crazy? Or does that sound a little strange for the last, because possibly the last 2 years of Bron's career?
I remember we did a show right after free agency, or even before free agency, and I was, I think after they drafted Dalton Knecht, I was like, none of this sounds like a team that's in win now mode. None of it. Right. Zero or title or bust mode. I never thought 3 firsts were on the table, which what we were sold 6 months ago. I don't even believe 2 firsts were on the table. I'm starting to believe there were no firsts on the table this summer, and it was just let's see what happens, and we'll reconvene at the deadline. So I'm with you again. Like, as a person I don't think this team is like a title contender as constructed. I think there's moves to be made. I also don't know if there's one move that makes you a title contender. So like I kind of understand, and I've been kind of preaching like, hey, you need to develop your young guys. Like, I think it's a shame that LeBron's been here 7 years and the youngest guys we've developed really aren't on the team anymore. So like I think that's definitely a margin that we need to kind of work on. But you're right. Like, do you go after Dan Hurley if you're in title or bust mode? I don't know. I don't think so. Right. Like, I don't think that's a guy. Like, I love Austin. I'm one of the biggest Austin supporters out there. Is Austin untouchable if you're in Tyler or bust mode? Like, I probably not. Like, so like I just look at I think their actions have kind of told you where they're at. I think they believe in LeBron and AD to an extent, and I'm only want to go short on this, Vinay, because I want to kind of close with the USA basketball stuff. But I don't think they want to invest future capital into. I'm putting it this way because I think this is how the front office thinks, not because of how I believe it. Into 40-year-old LeBron's title chase. I don't think they're good. I don't think they want to invest future draft capital into that. Do you agree with me on there? Like I really don't.
I think you're right. I think you're 100% right. Raj, I'll take it a step further. I think I told this to you offline, so people will be hearing about it now. I told you offline that if Bron takes less than a 3-year deal, I think he's going to retire. But like what people don't expect it. I think obviously the cap's going up. Maybe he wants to keep, increase the potential for how much money he can earn. But I think him taking less than a 3-year, he only took a 1+1. Him doing that is, I'm going to play 1 year with my son. And at the end of that, I'm going to say, I'm done playing basketball. Next year is going to be my last year playing basketball. And he'll pick up his option. And I think that is a very, I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility that's what he gets to fulfill his dream of playing with his son. And then he gets the retirement tour that he rightfully deserves. And there's no better team in the NBA to do that for him than the Los Angeles Lakers. And if part of, this is now getting into conspiratorial mode, if part of the exchange, because he's going to bring a lot of revenue, bro. Like one season of father-son basketball is great revenue for the tickets. The season of, I'm a season ticket holder. I've been a season ticket holder for like 12 years and counting. Like Kobe's retirement year was amazing for reselling tickets. Like if I wanted to sell it to the public. And I can only imagine how much money they'll make off of the father-son stuff and how much money they're going to make from his retirement tour. And maybe the exchange, I'm not saying they discussed it like this, but maybe the exchange was, hey, get a coach that I like. I'm not saying he's the reason for it, but get a coach that I like, that maybe you guys like too as well, a guy that I get along with, that I'm not going to be annoyed by these next 2 years. Go get my son. He's not going to be a 17th overall pick. We know that. If we get him to 55, you can grab him. I'll sign this extension. And it's like a farewell extension. Maybe I could be completely wrong. Next year he could sign a 3-year extension. I don't know. But when you think about the messaging that they've been giving us about the development stuff, JJ goes out there and says, hey, fall in love with the process. Don't worry about the results. I was like, what are you talking about? We're trying to win a championship. There's no other result that we want. But them saying stuff like that, the lack of moves, that sort of stuff. Okay, I can temper my expectations as a fan. I understand what you're trying to tell me. I just don't know if everybody else will.
So I don't know about the like retirement stuff, but I'm totally with you on.
I think pure conspiracy. So don't.
Right.
Don't, yeah.
Well, I want to parlay this into Vinay because I think this is fascinating because you're just talking about retirement, and I'm watching 40-year-old LeBron maybe be the best player on Team USA. Like it just it just makes no sense. You know what I mean? And I'm watching him on this Team USA team, and I'm like, man, he just looks as mobile, as athletic, as dominant, as good as ever, along with obviously AD for some reason still coming off the bench. It's just again, but I'm with you. The messaging doesn't match. I'm seeing Shell here put not playing with Bryce. That was a conversation I heard a lot in Vegas this weekend. By the way, a lot of people believe that he may actually opt out and just go play with Bryce after all this and just continue on this legacy of playing with his son. So we'll see with that. But yeah, man, no, I'm with you. I'm not sure about the conspiracy stuff in terms of he's gonna retire after that, but he looks good in the summer. He looks good on Team USA, man. That dude does not look like he's aged at all. Like he just does not look like a man that's about to turn 40 or whenever he's turning 40 in December. But I guess, do you have anything else on, I guess, the LeBron and I guess Lakers and stuff like that?
No, I think we're just gonna find out. Keep our fingers crossed that they do some roster consolidation. We could talk about what the end result of the roster looks like, and once I think when we get closer to preseason, and if there's no moves, we can have a real. I'll have some stuff to tear into.
If you had to put money on it, Vinay, is this the roster we go into training camp with?
It's 50-50 for me, dude. Because there's one part of me thinks that they can pull off the same thing that they did with Westbrook. I think that front office is like, if we wait long enough, we can. The guy that we want to move, which is D'Lo. Like D'Lo is the guy that they have to move. I understand D'Lo Stan's going to say that D'Lo's a great player. Why not move Austin? Blah blah whatever. D'Lo is the guy that they're going to move. They want to move D'Lo because they've invested in Austin. And the problem right now is that D'Lo and Austin basically need shots. And right now, Austin's not getting shots because he's playing next to D'Lo. And the Lakers need defensive balance. They can't play both guys in the backcourt because they're not good defensively in the backcourt together. And I don't think Austin is interested at a $12 million rate, interested in being the guy who has to chase dudes around defensively, get less shots, and have to shoot at a super high efficiency to get his double-digit scoring. So I think they're going to – it's 50-50, dude. I'm genuinely concerned that they think that they can just pull the same move. And to be fair, D'Lo is repped by an agent who will find him a destination if they really, really want to move him. And it could be, Raj, that they're just waiting to see if D'Lo can find a destination for himself to go to. Because he needs to sign a new contract. We're watching guys have to go take veteran minimums who seem like they're worth way more than veteran minimums.
Yeah, I mean, his agent is his brother now, correct? I think I have that correct.
Oh, is it not Mints anymore?
I believe it's his brother now. I'm not, I have to research that. But in any case, like that seems like Vinay a trade deadline more move than
I'm scared.
You know what I mean? Because you just compared it to the Russ situation, which I can see that, but the Russ thing happened in February.
Yeah, you're right.
And I just like, what incentive does the team have right now to do this D'Lo deal? Again, unless you're willingly giving them first rounders, which I think Pelinka has come out very clearly and said we're not giving up first round capital to dump salaries, which again means you're stuck, right? And I think there's some guys we like on the league. We were talking with our guys in the coach's den about, I think the guy in Orlando, I can't think of his name.
Wendell Carter Jr.
Wendell Carter Jr. Like, it's a guy I like, makes I think $10 million a year that we looked at. But again, I just we're 40,000 under the second apron. So,
but why would Bron take a cut then, Raj? Why does Bron take a pay cut then? Isn't that great? That just doesn't make any sense then, right? Like, why would you publicly take a pay cut? Broadcast that you're going to take a pay cut. Go out there and try to recruit role players to take a pay cut. Maybe we should save this for like, because we could do like an hour on just what doesn't make sense and what makes sense. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm 50-50. I think if they find somebody who's the cost for moving D'Lo doesn't include picks, or maybe includes like just 1 second rounder, and they're getting back a useful player that can help them now, I think they'll try and do it. But I think this front office has enough hubris to think that they can do the same thing they did with Russell again, with the same deal that they did with Westbrook. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, you're adding Max Christie, you're adding Vando, I'm telling you what they're going to sell you, Vinay, in about 3 months. They're going to sell you this. They're adding Vando, they're adding Max Christie, Dalton Knecht. Who else was injured last year? Gabe Vincent. They're adding Gabe Vincent. It's 4 guys that they've added without, actual any changes to the roster. But I want to have some fun to close this one. Give me your thoughts on Team USA, man. Dude, I don't know if you've been able to watch all the games, but
I've been watching the games. Ant-Man looks great. Steph is a god in FIBA basketball. He's a complete cheat code.
Unfair.
Embiid looks really rough, like he's never played FIBA basketball or FIBA physicality before. Bron looks great. He's quite literally just playing free safety on both ways. Gets to attack whenever he wants, plays defense whenever it's suited for him. I think that starting lineup is going to benefit from KD if KD gets healthy and comes back. Be really good. I think it probably has to be like Steph, Drew, Bron, KD, and like Embiid or something like that. Like, that's probably going to be the starting lineup.
We gotta get AD. We gotta start AD, man. We gotta get AD. I
want to start lineup. AD, but I think politics is going to keep AD out of the starting lineup. We can't
have politics on Team USA. We have politics on Team USA.
Yes, there is politics. Jaylen Brown was not wrong when he said that there is some politics when it comes to Team USA. He is telling the truth. I know which players were recruiting other superstar players and have had literal conversations of, you should probably recruit this guy, because if you're going to recruit this guy and this guy, they don't play any defense and you need a defensive guy. So you should probably get that. That player ended up being Drew Holiday. I understand why they've done some of the stuff they've done. But anyways, I think Embiid's going to start. I'm with you. AD has looked amazing, dude. He has looked so good in FIBA basketball. And bro, okay, obviously Bam is an all defensive caliber player, so the Lakers aren't going to get a guy like that at to back him up at center or to play next to him at center. But can we get somebody who's like just above
Right.
average on defense? Like I watched a play against Serbia, dude, where somebody I forgot who it was. One of the Serbian players drives to the rim and loses the ball, and Bam and AD like jump on it. Like they get all two big dudes get on the floor. The ball ends up in a scramble. A Serbian player gets it, throws it to Jokic. Jokic goes for like that little hook shot thing. AD goes
Right.
from the floor to blocking Jokic's shot like in a matter of a split second. That effort only happens when AD knows that he's got a guy behind him protecting him, like in case he gets beat. And I thought he did a great job on Jokic in that game. I think Jokic not getting those ticky-tack fouls that he gets in the NBA was a big part of like AD being effective too as well. But dude, like you can see the vision. Like it's AD, Bam, Booker who's a shooter, Ant who's a shooter, and I don't know who's and they play Tyrese. They play Halliburton with them. They play like those 3-guard lineups. And it's just let the dudes let your big men just be wrecking machines defensively and do what they have to do. And the other guys can shoot whatever it is. If you're gonna play out like now I think about the Lakers. If you're gonna play Austin, you're gonna play Braun, you get like a 3-and-D guy maybe at the spot next to him. Just get AD somebody that he can trust on the back line behind him. Where look, I can be aggressive on the perimeter or helping block shots or taking away space because I know that there's always going to be a guy back there to help crash the glass and that sort of stuff. So it's just he's been great, dude. I have nothing but good things to say about him and Braun. Braun has been great too as well.
Yeah, so AD's really to me been the like it's weird calling it a breakout star because it feels like so many people are just finding out like, oh my god, this guy is amazing, which we've been trying to say for like the last few years. Yeah, I think playing with Bam obviously has helped, but the bar isn't Bam. Like there's like such a gap in terms of like the player that would do that next to him. Even like a few years ago when he played next to JaVale, our defense was solid because he just had someone who was willing to go up and block shots and to rebound. I think even AD and like Hayes lineups were okay in a lot of instances, but yeah, you put AD around this level of perimeter defense as well, Vinay. Like you have Anthony Edwards out there hounding their dudes. Obviously, you spoke about Drew Holiday, Derek White, who took Kawhi Leonard's spot in a very strange situation. But again, you just add more of this just perimeter defense. I wonder if that's like some again, I think it's too late now to kind of change the whole structure of your team. But I think the interesting way to kind of look at it of like what obviously like you look at the joy AD plays with when he has the ability to just be a wrecking ball on defense. Like you could tell that's what gets him going. All the screams are coming back from after he blocks shots and he just plays with a level of freedom that he can't on our team because obviously the offensive load is what it is and the defensive help just does not exist. So hopefully they can find a center that like can play with him. I don't think Wood is that guy, Vinay. I don't think Wood is I think Jackson Hayes is like the closest iteration we have of that and it's just his coordination and just basketball.
He's a little loose, he's a little wild sometimes.
Yeah, and his basketball just understanding of defense, to put it nicely, just does not fit the mold that I'm talking about. But it's cool to watch, AD in that kind of situation around others. Like obviously he plays with the star and with LeBron, but just like a whole collection of talent that the Lakers just do not give him on the regular basis. It's fun, man, to watch them. It just feels like they're about to roll through this tournament. Like I thought Serbia would give them a little bit of trouble with Jokic, and I think Serbia started really well. They hit like 4 or 5 threes to start right away, and then AD and Bam came in and just lead went to 12 and 20, and they kind of rolled through that. But it's been cool to watch them play.
Yeah, and we could take, I think once Team USA is done, we can take some of our learnings and we'll see what the roster looks like and apply it to it. And I 100% understand people like, oh, you're playing a Serbian team, it's not NBA talent, blah blah, this sort of stuff. I 100% agree with it. But schematically, you can see how it works. Like schematically, you can think of a way to make it work. Bam is not a floor spacing big, but he's mobile. He gets out of the way, gets in the way. He crashes the glass. He knows how to kind of read what AD's trying to do and then fill the gaps. Like if you can find it, like I think Gasol was like this. Like if you can find a good defense, like a player with great defensive IQ, can be mobile, can switch out, can come back, has a rebounding motor, a defensive motor. If AD's not running down the floor, this guy's running down the floor to be the lob threat or something like that. Like there's ways to make it work. It doesn't always have to be a floor space. Oh, spacing. It doesn't have to be that way all the time. Team USA is not playing with great spacing. Like the teams are like just packing the paint against them. Like Ann Edwards is having to take pull-up jumpers, and Steph is coming off of DHOs and stuff like that and taking long threes. Because it is Steph. But even Bron's layups are not easy, bro. Like he's getting fouled and he's having to play through a lot of physicality to get there, which is more physical than the NBA. It can't just be one way. And I think Team USA, you're seeing schematically that it doesn't have to just be one way. Basketball doesn't have to be that way. So I hope, JJ, I would assume is busy right now. We didn't get to it, but I just want to shout out Scott Brooks, Nate McMillan, Lindsey Harding, Bob Byer, and then Bo once he gets hired. All wonderful additions, I think, to the coaching staff. I like Nate McMillan. I like Scott Brooks. I wanted Scott Brooks when we hired Darvin Ham. Like I wanted him to be the offensive coach because I was like, he's coached like Russ. Like if you want him to come off the bench, he can convince him to do it. He'll help you understand like how to use the dude. But I'm happy with the direction that the Lakers have gone in. But the results we'll have to see what the results look like. But I think the Lakers are doing a good job.
Yeah. Last thing, I just was looking up the numbers. I'm pretty surprised. Did you know Hayes and AD only played 19 games together? I could have sworn they had more time where they both played at the same time.
Oh,
only 80 minutes.
Interesting.
Yeah, only 80 minutes between those two. Actually had a really good defense. They were about a 103 defensive rating during those 80 minutes.
Raise your defensive floor, dude. Best teams in the NBA have high defensive floors. And I trust LeBron's IQ. And I hope JJ sounds very smart when he described it, like with his structured offense. I trust them to use those 82 games or whatever and figure it out by the time the playoffs come around. But just give us a high defensive floor, so that way we're not getting overwhelmed in the playoffs when it comes to that. So we'll see what happens. Yeah. Any other last thoughts, Roger, before we let the folks go?
No, I think that's pretty much it. It's been fun watching the rookies, man. It's people complain, Vinay, about summer league basketball, how it's ugly, how it's nasty, but it's this beautiful, twisted, sicko love of hoops, and Raj, I always miss it.
You've been in the trenches in the G League, so you know what it looks like. When
I always tell people, like, if you want to like go and just enjoy real pure hoop without all the hoopla and stuff like that, go to a G League game. You can sit as close as you'd like. You get to be in the beautiful El Segundo facility, and just you get to listen to all the plays called and all that, like, just beautiful sounds that you don't get at a regular game. But I would implore people to do that. Go to the Sparks games as well. There's that to do as well if you're near the LA area. But at least this year we'll get USA basketball, so the time frame of basketball where like there's no basketball playing is a little shorter. But
it would be funny. It would be funny. It would be funny for us if we ever. It's never going to happen. But like if we got a chance to do like color commentary, like just play-by-play commentary for a G League game, would be so funny. Like it was like it'd be very tasteful. We'd be professional. But it would be so entertaining. I already know it'd be so entertaining because of the way we talk about the game when we're watching the summer league stuff. But yeah, no, it'd be very entertaining. But yeah, I don't have any last takes. We'll see what happens with the Lakers. A lot of things have happened so far. Bronny continues to improve. Dalton looks great, so we'll continue to monitor summer league and chime in. Whenever somebody's anything happens with the Lakers. So as always, for all the folks that stayed tuned in with us, all 4,000 of you. We appreciate you, whether you like, share, subscribe, whatever you do. We appreciate you. And as always, I will take this and put it on the pod streams so you can hear it back on Spotify. You can hear it back on Apple, or you can replay it on Twitter too as well, my Twitter or Raj's Twitter, or the Lakers Detail Twitter. But as always, we appreciate you. So if you're listening to this during the day, if you're listening to this in the evening, we hope you have a wonderful day. If nothing else, we'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy.
Peace.